Well, I guess to sort of wrap things up for all the Italian horror that I've watched so far this Halloween season, there's one more to talk about, and that is Phenomena by the master himself, Dario Argento. I should mention, as most of you know, I don't really have a proper TV right now, so the way I've been watching all my movies is on my 16:9 1080p computer monitor, which is quite nice, and of course it allows me to view high-definition stuff and play video games in high definition, so that's always nice. So I actually have my PS3 hooked up to the computer monitor, and then I have a secondary monitor that I use to kind of, browse the internet, check my messages and whatnot as I'm watching things. For example, last week I was marathoning the entire first season of The Twilight Zone. Alas, just the DVD edition. I don't have the Blu-ray editions yet. Definitely going to get them at some point. And while I was watching those, I was updating the Multimedia Chronicles Master Index on my website, which incidentally you should really check out if you're ever wondering if I've done a video about this DVD or that DVD or this video game or that video game. Just check the index. It's all listed there by DVD title, so I could not possibly make it more convenient for you to find out if I've actually done a video on a particular title. So anyway, watching on the 16:9 screen is usually quite lovely, because the vast majority of DVDs are encoded in anamorphic 16:9 in one form or another, or they display properly. If they're widescreen, they fill the screen, or they have tiny black bars on the top and bottom if it's a CinemaScope aspect ratio film. You kind of see where I'm going with this, don't you? Yeah, this edition of Phenomena, while lovely in terms of content, is not 16:9. Yes, it's widescreen, but it's 4:3 letterboxed widescreen, which means watching it on a 16:9 monitor, there's black bars all the way around, also known as window boxing. Quite annoying. The other thing that's annoying is the PS3 doesn't have any kind of zoom function for when you're watching an older DVD like that, because a lot of older DVDs were encoded that way. It wasn't until a few years into DVD that anamorphic really caught on. Now watching anamorphic stuff, that is displayed properly on a 16:9 screen, because that's the kind of display it was designed for. But non-anamorphic, window boxed every time, and I hate it. Now why does the PS3 not have a zoom feature? Well, the logic is that most TVs have a zoom feature. So if you want to zoom in on the picture and cut out the window boxing and just have the image area displayed properly on your 16:9 screen, you can hit the zoom button a couple times and Bob's your uncle. But of course, I'm watching on a computer monitor that has no zoom function, so I'm kind of screwed. The only other option would be to watch it on the computer, where I have Power DVD, and Power DVD has a zoom function, or VLC player has a zoom function as well. Seems like everything has a zoom function except the fucking PS3. Come on, Sony! The PS3 can do everything else under the sun, but you don't have a frickin' zoom function for people who like to watch older DVDs? Anyway, I digress. Phenomena! Awesome movie. Check it out. I had never actually seen this before. This was one of the few sort of big, famous, notable Argento movies that everybody talks about that I hadn't seen yet. I've seen Suspiria, Inferno, Deep Red, Opera, Tenebrae, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and The Card Player, and I think that's it. I think that's all the Argentos I've seen. Might be one or two in there I'm forgetting. Anyway, I've seen most of his classic older ones. Oh, and Cat o' Nine Tails was another one that I saw. So I've seen pretty much all of his old ones, but I had somehow overlooked this one. But I have since rectified that. Let's take a look at the cover, shall we? There we go. Now, if the girl on the cover looks somewhat familiar, well, mind you, that is a painting of her, but that's Jennifer Connelly. And this movie came out in 1985, which means she did this right before or around the same time that she did Labyrinth. What a way to start your career. First you do a horror movie with Dario fucking Argento, then you go on and work with Jim fucking Henson and David fucking Bowie. What a way to start your fucking career! Hey, these are R-rated movies. If you're a little kid, you shouldn't be watching these movies, and therefore you shouldn't be watching reviews of these movies. So I will fucking swear if I fucking want to. Thank you. So that's the cover. So pretty cool. And then inside, much like the Lucio Fulci ones, you got the disc on one side, and then you got a reproduction of one of the posters. A lot of these had multiple posters, but this was, I guess, one of the more well-known ones. And then you got the chapter listing on the back. Now, when Anchor Bay originally put this out, this was a big deal because it was the first time that this had not only been available under its original title, but available uncut. Apparently, prior to this DVD release, the only way you could see it was in a heavily cut-down US release, retitled Creepers. And apparently that US release cut out no less than 28 minutes of footage. That's crazy! That's like almost a full quarter of the movie. Wow. Thank God for the DVD revolution, eh? So it's thanks to that we get these beautifully remastered editions. Well, a little more beautiful when they're anamorphic. And we get to see the uncut versions for the first time ever. I mean, that's pretty damn cool. Not only that, but there's actually a pretty decent selection of extras on here. First off, it is presented in its correct aspect ratio of 1.66 to 1, which is a pretty standard aspect ratio in Europe, apparently. Then you got audio commentary by Dario Argento, special makeup effects artist Sergio Stivoletti, music composer Claudio Simonetti of Goblin fame, and journalist Loris Curci. Now this is very rare because Argento doesn't often do commentaries because his English isn't fabulous, and it's an English commentary. So that's pretty cool, and that's reason enough to have it. I think that all of these extras have since been re-released on the special edition that came out a few years ago. The big difference being that the movie is actually anamorphic in the special edition. What else do you have for extras? So you got the theatrical trailer, you got a behind-the-scenes segment, you got a Claudio Simonetti music video. The Claudio Simonetti music video on this is pretty cool. It's actually directed by Dario Argento and features, again, Jennifer Connelly and whatnot, and ties in directly with the movie. It's pretty cool. A Bill Wyman music video, and Dario Argento interviewed by Joe Franklin. Ugh. That interview was just painful to watch. I mean, it's really cool to have an archival interview like that. Joe Franklin was a host of some talk show back in the 80s. I gotta say, like, watching the interview was just squirm-inducing because Joe Franklin obviously knows jack shit about movies, and especially about Dario Argento or Italian horror or anything like that. And some of the questions he asks are just so stupid. I'm sorry, but they were really, really stupid questions. But Dario was just a perfect gentleman, and he just smiled and answered the questions and was completely cordial and polite and just happy to be getting some publicity for his movie, I guess. The story Phenomena essentially mixes elements that will probably be familiar to a lot of longtime Argento viewers. You know, there's a bit of a Suspiria vibe to it because it's about a girl at a boarding school, kind of like girl at a ballet school in Suspiria, yeah. The headmistress of the boarding school is a total stuck-up bitch. Not quite to the extent of the German dance instructor of Suspiria, but still similarly cold-hearted and iron-booted, as it were. And you have Jennifer Connelly as quite an interesting young lady who apparently has the ability to telepathically communicate with bugs. She can summon bugs to assist her when needed. She can communicate with bugs. She can empathize with bugs and such. So yeah, there's a lot of bugs in this movie, as I'm sure you can guess. The other thing that will be familiar to longtime Argento fans is there's also a murder mystery interwoven into all this supernatural, Suspiria-inspired, bug-infested goodness. So there's a lot of cool things going on here. Now, is it an amalgamation that works? Honestly, I think overall, yes. Now, I'd heard a lot of mixed reviews of this movie, but I personally really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. The only complaint that I've heard probably more commonly from people is some of the music is a little over the top in places, but it's still that great 70s and 80s Goblin and other sort of synth-based artists' music that we all love from watching these movies. So I really had no complaints about that. What was it? One reviewer on Amazon that I thought was actually pretty funny described it as, she's brushing her teeth. Cue Motorhead. Yeah, it's not quite that bad. I think he was exaggerating just a tad. But yeah, some of the music, it's a little touch and go. Some of you might love it, some of you might hate it. I loved it personally. So anyway, Phenomena. Definitely recommended. Well, I spent a lot longer talking about a measly 4 movies than I actually intended to. Well, next time, We're going to try to talk about 2 or 3 in the span of one video. We'll see how it goes. So until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara.